Yo, welcome to Knowing True Ball with your host, Brian Payne. Hey, you guys, man, your boy was on vacation last week, bro. I was down in Florida. We went to Naples with the family. Man, we had a good time, man. The kids got to play in the sand and all that good stuff. And, man, I tried to go ahead and record the pod last Wednesday to upload it last Thursday. Bro, the quality wasn't there. The quality wasn't there, man. It wasn't a real spot for me to do it. So I tried to do it outside. The camera angles were super blurry, all that kind of stuff. So I was just like, man, we're just going to chalk it this week. But that's why there was not a pod last week. But we're getting back to it. Your boy don't have no more vacations. So we ready to rock and roll. Hey, getting into this episode, man, the first thing that we're going to start off with is what I'm going to call the important news. The important news. These are going to be things like transactions that I think truly matter and just little, I guess you could say, drama things that go on in the NFL at the moment. And the first drama thing that we're actually going to jump into is actually going to be about Deshaun Watson. Because I know a lot of y'all are really like, what's going on with the Deshaun Watson injury? Let me explain it to you. So Deshaun Watson, he's suffering from a bruised right shoulder. Remember, his throwing shoulder is his right shoulder. So that's a problem. Well, he missed the game 2 weeks ago, and he also missed this past week against the San Francisco 49ers. And I know a lot of you wonder, like, why is he not getting out there if it's just bruised? Because the doctors cleared him, everybody's cleared him, so he's ready to rock and roll. Let me explain to you that he is like the only guy pretty much in the NFL. There's only one other guy, and that's Kirk Cousins, but the money doesn't add up the same way that adds up for Deshaun Watson. He's the only guy in the league that has a fully guaranteed contract. Well, what you have to remember that a lot of these guys that do not have fully guaranteed contracts, their contracts are incentive based. So they get paid based off of performance, based on how many yards they get. So, for example, a guy like let's say Tyreek Hill, for example, he's going to make extra $500,000 if he hits 1,600 yards for the season in receiving yards. Deshaun doesn't have none of that. None of that. His is fully guaranteed. And pretty much what he's doing, guys, is that he's just not playing since he's hurt. Essentially, that's just what he's doing. He's just like, I'm not going to risk my body. I still get my money. I'm just going to wait until I'm fully healthy to come out there and perform. So that's what he's doing. As a human, I agree with him. I agree with him as a human. Take care of your body, take care of yourself, because you have a lot of life to live after football. But as a teammate, I would be very bothered. I would be very bothered that you're sitting out over a bruised shoulder versus playing the game. There are guys out here playing the game with sprained ankles, sprained knees, sprained MCLs, strained calves, so on and so forth, halfway torn labrums, and they're playing through it. And they're playing through it for the team, also for their money. So now, Deshaun, when you're trying to be a team captain, that's not a good look. It's not a good look. But that's what's going on with the Deshaun Watson situation. And that's going to be a bad sign for future players because it's going to be another thing that owners look at of why they should not give anyone fully guaranteed contracts, because there is no true incentive for you to get out on the field and play, even though you are not 100% healthy. Speaking of contracts, the next thing that I want to get into is the Jonathan Taylor contract extension. So, for those of you that do not realize, Jonathan Taylor was a second-round draft pick. Second-round draft pick. Therefore, his contract was 4 years. 4 years. See, the difference between a second-round draft pick and a first-round draft pick is that a first-round draft pick, there is something called a fifth-year option. So they feel like that you are performing up to par. They could pretty much put this option on you that automatically makes your contract 5-year contract before you could get paid. Taylor's is on only a 4-year, and there is no option for that. So Taylor played his rookie year, obviously. His second year, that's when he went crazy. Last year was his third year when he had a bad ankle and didn't have the season that he was anticipating. And his fourth year is now this year. That's why he was sitting out to get paid. He's like, I'm not playing unless I get paid. So now the only way that the Colts could keep him was to franchise tag him next season, and then you could also franchise tag again. He didn't want nothing to do with the franchise tags. But this is what confuses me with this contract. So he ended up signing a 3-year contract extension. He signed 3 years, $42 million, $14 million a season, which sounds solid. That is more than the franchise tag. So it sounds fair. This is my issue with the contract. The media, first of all, they put out these contracts this way to confuse us um, fans. And the reason why they want to confuse us fans is because the owners want us to be confused. So when they put out that number of 42 million, I personally don't care nothing about the 42 million because it's only about the guaranteed money. It's only about the guaranteed money. Well, his guaranteed money is $28 million. So he's getting $14 million a season, and only $20 million of $28 million of it is fully guaranteed. So, AKA, this means that he signed a 2 year contract. Because of how his contract broke down, I looked at it already. You could go look at it if you like. But because of how the contract structure is, he's getting $14 million next season, $14 million a year after. Remember, I said they could have franchise tagged him for 2 consecutive years. So pretty much all they did was give him his franchise tag money because that third year they could cut him. They don't owe him that money that third year. So to me, the holdout was somewhat pointless. The only reason why it did do something is because we're talking about knowing true ball, so we're getting into the nerdy stuff. The reason why it did mean something for Jonathan Taylor and why he did win signing that contract is because the running back market is going down. And the way the franchise tag worked, it's a median of the top 5 contracts. So if the top 5 contracts keep dwindling down, the lower the franchise tag money goes down. So next year, if the franchise tag money goes down a little bit, which it probably will, he actually did gain money. And then the year after, it could go down again. He still gained money. So he did gain money probably over the next 2 years, but all the drama that's went into this, I don't really know what he truly accomplished. But hey, he's happy with his contract. The Colts are happy with him. I'm happy to see him see that he is back. He's a great football player, and I cannot wait to see him get back up to speed. Give him a few weeks. He's going to need about 4 or 5, maybe even 6 weeks before we see the old Jonathan Taylor. But because it's going to be a minute, getting your legs back, getting back used to getting hit. He also has a new head coach, new offensive scheme, first time playing in it. It's going to take some time, but hey, kudos to him. Kudos to the Indianapolis Colts for getting the deal done. Moving on to trades that were done while we have not been on our pod. Trades that were done were like J.C. Jackson going from the Los Angeles Chargers to the New England Patriots, which I actually think was a great move. Great move for both sides. Because just like y'all know, I've been saying this ever since we started the pod. J.C. Jackson does not fit that scheme in Los Angeles. So therefore, he was not worth anything to them. But by moving him to the New England Patriots, he fits that scheme. That's where he made his name. So he could get back to his level of relevance. Maybe not as good as he once was because he suffered a couple bad injuries, but he could still be a quality player for the New England Patriots. So good trade for the Patriots. But unfortunately, I don't really see the Patriots going anywhere. But good trade. Moving on to Chase Claypool going to Miami. This is a very minimal trade. I really don't think it means much at all. To be honest, it's just another talented player on the team. But until Chase Claypool accepts who he truly is in the NFL, he's never going to really find a true role. And plus, he has a bad habit of blaming everybody but himself. It's always a quarterback's fault. It's always a scheme and blase blase. Now, the thing is, he has played in bad schemes and with quarterbacks that do not fit him, which is unfortunate for him. But also, like, there's no need to broadcast that. Just go into the free agency next year because you're probably not going to sign a contract extension. Just go into free agency and go somewhere where you could be used in a proper way. But hey, he went to Miami. He's probably going to be like the 5th, 6th guy on the depth chart at wide receiver. So it really doesn't mean anything because of how loaded Miami is. We're talking about Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Braxton Berrios, Robbie Anderson / Robbie Chosen, whatever his name is now. Like they got guys. They don't really need him. But he's there. Moving on to Randy Gregory going to the San Francisco 49ers. So that was a big move because the 49ers are great in the interior. And of course, they got Nick Bosa on the outside. But now you add another extreme athlete on the other outside, getting one-on-one coverage and one-on-one blocking schemes with Randy Gregory. He could beat those guys. Him and Leonard Floyd are a lot alike, where if they could get one-on-ones, they will beat those guys. They just can't be the star of your defensive line. Once they get double teamed and all that kind of stuff, they become irrelevant. But when they could just do their job, those guys are elite guys to have on your defense. Moving on to Cam Akers going to the Minnesota Vikings. So far, it hasn't really proved to me much of anything. I do think, though, there's a little time clock on Alexander Madison. He needs to continue improving. I do think Cam Akers has a higher ceiling than Madison has. But once again, we're talking about NFL traits are just different, you guys. They're just different because the schemes and the offenses are so different that it takes time to learn those things if you do not have training camp. So we probably won't really see how involved Cam Akers is for probably about like a solid 2 or 3 more weeks. But he does have a higher ceiling than Alexander Madison. But I think Madison has that job on lock. The final trade that we're going to talk about is Van Jefferson going to the Atlanta Falcons. I think it was a good move for the Falcons, but until Ritter could show some type of true arm talent, it really doesn't mean a whole lot. But it was a good move. He got younger instead of having Hollins. Now you can put him in that spot. And Van Jefferson is a better deep ball threat than Hollins. But we'll see what it does. We'll see what it does. We know Ritter missed that pass this past week. That could have been a touchdown to Van Jefferson in his first game. And one more move I want to talk about that has not become official yet, but it's highly likely this is where it's going to go, is Frank Clark. Frank Clark got released by the Denver Broncos, and him coming back to Kansas City where he probably will go. Because once again, no training camp. He knows the system, knows the scheme. He already has relationships with all the players. It's an easy fit just to slide him back into that role. Man, that's going to be a great pickup for the Chiefs and a great pickup for the Chiefs defensive line. That is a really good pickup, and the Chiefs defense will get better as long as they can seal the deal and bring him back to KC. That's all the important news that we're going over this episode. But now what we're going to do, because we did not get to do our pod last week, we're going to go over the important games of week 5. Only the important games. We're not we're not going in crazy detail, just games that I want to touch on real quick, and then we'll get into this past week. So the first game I want to touch on is the Buffalo Bills at the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is when they played in London. I'm shocked that the Jaguars won that game, but there's a part of me that's not really shocked. When you're talking about having to travel overseas, different time zones, all that kind of stuff, man, Buffalo Bills, they were gassed. They were gassed. They did not have the juice. They was not ready to play. They did not come properly prepared and ready to rock and roll. You got to remember the Jaguars stayed there. They played there for 2 straight weeks. So they just stayed. So they played their first game, I think, against the Atlanta Falcons, and then they just stayed in London. So they got to go through their whole normal routines, all that kind of stuff to properly prepare for this game. And when they did that, it gave them an edge. And sure enough, they went out there and handled their business and did what they're supposed to do. But the big thing that I want to focus on from this game is with Josh Allen. And this is what I mean, guys, when I say like they could tend to get sloppy sometimes. They got sloppy. They got sloppy in that game. And the offense did not produce the way that the offense is supposed to produce. And that's a problem. That's a problem. And the reason why it's a problem is because that's a problem that we have with Josh Allen on a regular basis. We'll touch on that some more when we get into the Week 6 games. But just remember that the good game by the Jacksonville Jaguars, the reason why they won is because the Jaguars defense played very well. And some reason the Jaguars defense, they're Josh Allen. So yes, there's 2 Josh Allens in this game, a quarterback and a defensive end for the Jaguars. The defensive end, Josh Allen for the Jaguars, he kills Josh Allen, the quarterback, every time they play. Every time they play, look back, this dude goes crazy anytime they play the Bills. I don't know what it is, but he loses his mind against the Bills, and he controls that game. Heck of a game by him. Heck of a game by the Jacksonville Jaguars defense. Josh Allen, we got to do better. Moving on to the Baltimore Ravens Baltimore Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers. In this game, man, the Ravens have to find something more than just Lamar Jackson. You cannot depend on him to do everything for your offense. And the wide receivers, they have to become more consistent. We cannot continue expecting Lamar Jackson to throw these balls, touch people dead in their hands, and they drop them. You're not going to win games that way, especially against a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers had no business winning that game, but the Steelers are a hard-fighting team. You cannot let them have lives. They gave them multiple lives, and sure enough, they bit them. Eventually, they're going to bite, and that's exactly what they did. Burn in the corner, Pickett to Pickens on the bomb, and did handle their business. But for the Ravens, you had plenty of chances to try to close the game out, and you did not close the game out. That's a bad sign. Granted, you went against a well-coached team and a good defense. So it ain't like you play against the scrubs. But you got to close out that game. You have to close out that game. If you're supposed to be one of those teams, you got to close out those games. Moving on now to the Eagles at Rams. I picked the Rams to win this game, and obviously they lost this one. But man, it still was a really good game. But it was a great game for the Eagles. The Eagles defense showing that they could slow down the passing game a little bit, which is a big deal. I mean, Cooper Kupp still had his day, and Puka Nacua still had a day as well. So it's nice to see that the Rams offense could function with those two wide receivers, just like I thought they would be able to. And Matt Stafford is still slinging that ball, still doing this thing. But the Eagles defensive line with Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Hassan Reddick, and all them boys, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, them boys, man, they could just keep coming, and that's what happened in this game. But what was really nice to see was Jalen Hurts. This game was the best game that Jalen Hurts played so far this season. It was by far the best game. He was in control. He was scrambling well. He was throwing the ball well. This just was a really good game for the Eagles passing attack. The offensive line held up strong against Aaron Donald on that defense. So that was a good sign. We got some more things we're going to go over about the Eagles, obviously, but that was a good sign for them against the Los Angeles Rams. At least it's shown that they're growing in the offense somewhat. And then obviously the game of the week last week was the Dallas Cowboys at the San Francisco 49ers. Just like we talked about with the Cowboys when they lost to the Arizona Cardinals, the penalties. When it got real, when they played against an opponent that's on their level, on par, or better, they suffer penalties. They shoot themselves in the foot. That's choking. That's a choke job. When you're shooting yourself in the foot, that's a choke job. They did not play well. They were nervous. They were not coached well. They were not properly prepared for that game. But I will say though, the Cowboys defense, they did play strong. They played strong. They held up. They did their thing. But in a lot of these games, the Cowboys defense does. A lot of these games are low scoring games. They're not blowouts. Now this game, it started getting a little shaky for the Dallas Cowboys defense. But that's because the offense didn't do anything. Did not do anything. The offensive line got bullied. Dak, he showed that he's having a hard time leading this offense. And they are just a finesse football team. So when you can get your hands on them and really bully them, you will make them back off. You will make them back down. They do not have enough dogs out there. But Cowboys have to find a way to get CeeDee Lamb involved. But we'll get into that, obviously, when we touch on week 6. But one thing about this game is going to sound funny because we are a week late. We are a week late on this. And that is that Brock Purdy is becoming a true playmaker for the 49ers offense. A true playmaker for the 49ers offense. I'm not as high as everyone else trying to say he's an MVP candidate. I don't think that, mainly because I think Christian McCaffrey is the MVP candidate of that offense and that team. I feel like you can't give it to both the quarterback and the running back. I think it's the running back. But it is a great start to the year that he's having, and obviously coming off of last year, and he's showing that he's more than what Jimmy Garoppolo was. And the last thing we're going to touch on with this game is that Mike McCarthy cannot coach against Mike Shanahan. It can't happen. I'm sorry. Let me rewind a little bit. Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn cannot beat Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan did everything that can destroy a Dan Quinn defense in that game. Everything. And Dan Quinn, he has no answers for it. And Mike McCarthy, as far as you offensively, I'm not holding him as close to the fire as a lot of people are, comparing him to what Kellen Moore was doing. He's trying to do a different philosophy, so I understand it. I do get it. I get it. The issue I have with it is that both of y'all aren't getting the job done. When it gets real, you're not getting the job done. And that's a problem that both of you guys are having, and why I cannot call either or a great offensive coordinator. For fantasy, though, Kellen Moore is that dude. Hey, if you could get a guy from a Kellen Moore offense for fantasy football, fantastic. For real life football, honestly, he's an NFL version of Mike D'Antoni. There you go. So now what we're going to do now, after going over those important games, we're about to get into this week, which was a good week for football. It was a really good week for football. And the way we're going to get started is with our play clock segment. Those of you that are just now tuning in and don't remember from last week, the play clock segment is where I'm going to go over some games, not spend a lot of time on them. We're only going to spend 40 seconds on all these teams. We're going to get them done, out the way, because these games right here, to me, didn't have the level of importance, so we can spend more time talking about things later on in the episode. All right, so let's get started with the play clock segment. And the first game we're going to go over in the play clock segment is the Vikings at the Chicago Bears. Man, this game, Justin Fields got hurt, but even before that, he was not playing good football. They were not getting the ball to DJ Moore the way they needed to. And, man, the Minnesota offense is completely lost without Justin Jefferson. I thought maybe Jordan Addison might be able to find more of a role, which he did, but they just did not know how to use him and did not know how to get him in places to make plays. And obviously, he's not Justin Jefferson. And Kirk Cousins, I think, should be on the trading block. I think it would be a smart thing for the Minnesota Vikings and for him to part ways. Minnesota Vikings get something because you shouldn't pay him next year. Also, Kirk Cousins, you get to a winning situation. Moving on to the next game, we're going to go to the Colts at the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Indianapolis Colts, man, they went to this game obviously without Anthony Richardson. He's out for the rest of the season with shoulder surgery. And then this is Jonathan Taylor's second game back. I think he finished the game with about 65 total yards. He showed to be a little something like more of himself than last week. As we said, he's going to continue growing. But, man, the Colts just ain't – they're just not that good right now. And it's okay. They're going to be building on this, and next year they should be a solid football team. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, they are also growing within their offense. Hopefully Trevor Lawrence can play. Hopefully he's not too banged up for Thursday Night Football against New Orleans. But the offense is growing. We'll see where they get to. The next game we're going to go to is the New England Patriots at the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this. I just got one simple thing to say. It's time. It is time. It's time for Bill Belichick to hang it up. You ain't got it no more, bro. You don't have it no more. It has nothing to do with you. You're just not a good GM. You do not have the talent on the team in order to win games. And, yeah, it's just that time. It's just that time. Moving on to the next games. We're going to the Denver Broncos at the Kansas City Chiefs. The only thing I got to say about this is, first of all, Sean Payton, terrible job still. Not doing good at all. Not doing well at all. Continue blaming everyone but yourself. Terrible timeout before halftime. That just made absolutely no sense. And that franchise is in complete disarray. Nobody knows who's leading, and everyone's afraid of the person that thinks that he's leading, and Sean Payton. For the Kansas City Chiefs offense, man, we got to get better. We got to get more consistent. We should have scored more than one touchdown in this game. Now, that's all we needed, but we got to get more consistent. Moving on now to the Cardinals at Rams. Man, the Rams, they started off a little slow, but they got a little pass happy. But I understand, man. You got Cooper Kupp back, so they try to handle their business through the air. But, hey, look, when the second half came and they got more to the running game, got the running game truly involved with Kyren Williams, man, they picked up a lot. We'll see where the running game goes now that Kyren Williams out and Rivers is out. We'll see what the boy Evans got. But, hey, the Rams, that offense continues getting better, and that Matt Stafford's still playing at a high level, and Cooper Kupp is still that dude. Moving on now to the last game of our play clock segment is the Carolina Panthers at the Miami Dolphins. And really, I want to focus on the Miami Dolphins here. We all knew who was going to win this game. The Dolphins are playing great football, obviously. I still think they should get Jalen Waddle more involved. And this is my issue, how they're using Jalen Waddle. They need to use him more downfield. It seems like they've fallen in love with this thing of only Tyreek getting 2,000 yards and breaking records. They're falling in love with that. So, that's something that they're gunning for, which is dope. I'm happy for them. But the issue is, when you run against a team like the Buffalo Bills did and what Philadelphia is probably going to do, they're not going to let Tyreek Hill loose like that. They're not going to let him loose like that. And when you're not showing that you are willing to even go to another option, it's easier to defend Tyreek. So just imagine how hard it would be to defend Tyreek if you think that Waddle is going deep and Tyreek's going deep. You know one of them two is going deep. You don't know which side the shade covers to, because both of them dudes could burn people. But right now, that's not what they're doing. Right now, it's only Tyreek going deep, and you got Waddle just doing crossers all day. That's all he does is crossers. And now what happened with the Buffalo Bills, because you got to remember the Bills have a long history with Tyreek. I know it's been more than the play clock on this game, but this game, there's some things with the Dolphins that we have to discuss. You got to remember the Bills have a long history with Tyreek playing with Kansas City. They know drop and cover two, drop back, have safety help where you cannot get the ball there. And then the Philadelphia Eagles, their defense is smart enough that they're going to do the same thing. But the biggest flaw that with this offense to me with Miami right now is Tua's depending on that anticipation way too much. Way too much. And he's doing a lot of one read, and that's really starting to bother me. So like when he's getting the ball, he's just immediately looking at Tyreek Hill. He's not really looking nowhere else. And now when he has to make progressions, he's so stuck right here in the pocket that when he has to make the progression, now there's a 6'8" guy right here. He can't see the middle of the field because of his height. And now he's too late to play make out of that. So that's going to be a problem, especially when you're going against the Eagles. If Jalen Carter is back this week, you got Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis coming at you. That's going to be a problem for Tua. So we got to really watch this team because as good as they are, Tua needs to take another step. There's more steps that Tua can make. I'm not saying Tua is a bad quarterback. I believe there's a lot of quarterbacks that are just as good as he is, the Lamar Jacksons and a lot of these kind of guys. But there's a step they could take, and they just got to take that step, and then that could put them on a whole nother level. Going to the important games of the week. The important games of the week, first one we're going to start off with is the Baltimore Ravens at the Tennessee Titans. The reason why this was an important game is because the Tennessee Titans are trying to maintain relevance in a division that's not playing very good football, and for the Baltimore Ravens trying to get back on track and trying to stay ahead in their division, trying to stay ahead of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. That's a real tough knit division. But obviously the Ravens won. And obviously Ryan Tannehill got hurt. That hindered the Tennessee Titans a little bit. Although I don't really think it did because honestly he's been playing terrible. But Malik Willis was even worse. He took way too many sacks. Way too many sacks. You got to get the ball at your hand, young blood. But looking at the Baltimore Ravens, it's still the same thing. Still depending on Lamar doing way too much. Your run game is completely non-existent. You got to be able to run the football with Lamar. That's what opens up the run, the RPOs, opens up the read option. It opens up everything for that offense if you guys can run the football. I know that J.K. Dobbins got hurt, but you got to find something there. Which I got a solution for you guys for later in the show. But that has to happen. Another issue is that Lamar, man, your accuracy gets worse throughout the game. I understand why, because you're starting to run, you're getting beat up, you're getting banged up throughout the game. I can understand it, but it's still no excuse. When there's a ball to be made, you got to make that pass, and it has to get completed. You got to continue to work on that accuracy. I believe in you. You're one of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. I think you're better than what a lot of your haters think. But that is something that you got to improve on. That's all. And also, man, the wide receiver inconsistencies. Man, they gotta catch the ball. Nelson Aguilar dropped the ball again. Zay Flowers dropped the ball again. We gotta complete these passes. These passes gotta be complete because now it allows the offense to stay on schedule. Now you can try to run the ball a little bit more because you're not in a 2nd and 10 situation, a 3rd and 8 situation. Now you can try to run the ball a lot more, but we gotta get better at the wide receiver spot. The next important game that we're going to talk about is the New Orleans Saints at the Houston Texans. And, man, the Saints offense just isn't performing as well as it should. I honestly think that they thought that they were getting something more out of Derek Carr. But what Derek Carr is, I feel like we just have to accept what he is. Yes, he does have good arm talent, and there can be some deep balls made there. But he needs help. Derek Carr needs to be looked at as a stronger arm Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that's how he needs to be viewed. So therefore, I think the Saints need to commit more to the run game. Run, 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 run. And then you can run the play action off of the run. You have a great deep threat wide receiver in Chris Olave. Now he's free because now he's in one-on-ones and now he's going deep. And you got a great possession wide receiver because Mike Thomas is still a great possession wide receiver. You have a great possession wide receiver to maintain the chains. Mike Thomas, he could be catching somewhere around 8 balls a game, probably about 80 yards. He handles a lot of first downs for you. Then Chris Olave, he's going to be hitting about 6-7 yards a game. 6-7 targets a game, catches, a game. and he could be hitting about 90 to 110 yards a game for you. But you got to run the football. You got to work off the play action. That's the only way this offense is going to work. Because right now, what you're doing is putting that defense on the field too much, and them boys are getting tired. They're getting tired. That defense hung strong in this game. But, man, eventually y'all got to hold the ball for a little bit. But I will definitely want to talk about C.J. Stroud. I'm telling you guys, y'all know I've been saying it all year. C.J. Stroud was my favorite quarterback in this draft. Honestly, bro, he reminds me a lot of Joe Burrow. A lot of Joe Burrow. He has strong command, strong accuracy, and he just plays the QB position the way it's supposed to be played. There is no quarterback in the league today playing better than him with timing and structure. When it's structured up, there's nobody reading the field better than he is. And his timing is on point. And that's the thing that's getting a lot of these quarterbacks in trouble. It's getting Tua in trouble, Josh Allen in trouble, getting Jalen Hurts in really bad trouble. Really bad trouble. And so on and so forth. But, man, this dude's timing is elite right now. When he drops back, when they tell him to take a 3-step drop and hit that ball right there, he's doing 1, 2, 3, gone. 5-step, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, gone. And what that does is allows your offense to stay on pace, stay on point. And that's why he's playing so well. But, man, he's playing great football right now. I'm telling you guys, watch the Houston Texans. They are now 3-3. They are in the meat of this division. They could win this division. They could mess around and sneak into the playoffs with a young team. I did not think they were going to be able to do that. But the way that these guys are playing, I'm more scared of them than the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Tennessee Titans or the Indianapolis Colts. I sincerely like the Texans better than all those teams. So, man, just continue watching C.J. Stroud, man. You get, man, that offensive line gets a little better. Mess around and get a good running back there. Because their quarterback's on a rookie contract, they could pay Saquon Barkley. Put Saquon on that team. Oh, my goodness, bro. That would be a really good football team. Moving on now to the Detroit Lions at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Man, the Lions continue showcasing who they are, showcasing dominance. And honestly, they remind me of a poor man's version of the 49ers. I say poor man because, like, they don't have C.J. McCaffrey. They got David Montgomery. They don't have Deebo Samuel. They got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They don't have Brandon Ayuk. They got Josh Reynolds / Jameson Williams. They don't have George Kittle. They got Sam Laporta. You get what I'm saying? Like, they just got, like, they got guys that play a lot like those guys, but they ain't those guys. Now, they may have the better quarterback, and that could be the balance. Jared Goff is playing great football so far this year, guys. So far this year, playing great football. He should be an MVP candidate this year. He is playing fantastic ball, putting the ball where it needs to be, on time, on rhythm, and playing within the structured offense. He is not hurting his team whatsoever. They are 5-1 for a reason. And honestly, they only lost one game in overtime to the Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, you could say they shouldn't have beat the Chiefs, but they did. Like I said, we're not getting into all that kind of stuff here. But, man, Jared Goff is playing great football, and kudos to him because, man, I thought his career was done. I really did. And instead, man, he's making a whole lot more of his career than what I thought he would be able to. But focusing real quick, though, on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just not talented enough. That's all that was. Just weren't talented enough. But your play style, the way you play, you will have a chance to win that NFC South. That NFC South is wide open. Literally, the Saints, Falcons, and Bucks, I believe, all have the same record. If they don't, they're like right there at the same record. And obviously, Carolina's just doing whatever Carolina's doing. But you guys still in that division. You still got a chance to fight. Baker, that was a tough matchup. You could come back this upcoming week. Moving on now to the Giants at the Buffalo Bills. This is the third week in a row, guys, that the New York Giants defense has played great football. Great football. Now, you'll be like, oh, well, what about 2 weeks ago? I want to say they played against the Miami Dolphins. Don't look at that. Don't look at the final score. Watch the game. Those first 3 quarters, the Miami Dolphins were struggling. And that's why I'm bringing up this stuff about Tua. And the reason why they were struggling was because the interior of that defense with Dexter Lawrence and those big boys in there and Thibodeau coming off the outside, they got their hands up. And when they do that against Tua, it made it rough. It made it rough for Tua. And that's what they did in this game as well. The New York Giants against the Bills. They was getting pressure on Josh Allen. They were getting pressure on him, making him move. Now, the good thing about Josh Allen is that he has properly learned how to scramble. He doesn't just try to take off sideways. No, he tries to scoop and maneuver, get to a better throwing angle. But they're still just loose. They're still loose. Talking about the Buffalo Bills. They're still loose with the ball. The sense of urgency just isn't there all the time. And they're just not consistent with their play. And that's why this game became a tight game. The Giants played hard. They played within structure. And then the next thing you knew, the Buffalo Bills were having a hard time. Now, granted, for Josh Allen, you were going against Brian Daboll, the dude that helped you become what you are. He knows all your weaknesses, knows all your positives, so he probably was attacking those kind of things. Don't get me wrong, but it still was a great showing by the Giants. And obviously, they had the mishap before halftime. But man, Tyrod Taylor is definitely a better option for them, in my opinion, than Daniel Jones. He was putting the ball in better places, better spots, all those kind of things. Granted, there's not a whole lot of tape on Taylor with this offense, but I like the command that he had with this offense. Honestly, I think Daniel Jones he has no confidence right now. No confidence. His confidence is shot, is dead. And he is a player that really thrives off that confidence. That's the only way that you're going to get the most out of him. But the Buffalo Bills, the offense, man, y'all gotta clean it up. You gotta clean it up. You are not going to continue winning games like this. And that's what I was saying before. At the beginning of the year, when they put up their 40, 50s, they do that a lot at the beginning of the year. When we get to the middle of the schedule, to the end, the Bills tend to tail off. And we will see how they do, because I really do like Josh Allen, but man, we got to be more consistent. Moving on now to the Seattle Seahawks at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Seahawks offense just isn't good. It's just not a good offense. Geno is not playing as well as he was last year. They are not getting the ball to DK Metcalf. And the reason why that's a problem is because it's messing up the run game. They're not stretching the field. This should be a play action passing team. And they're not. Instead, they think that they could just line up and play bully ball when your offensive line is not good. You can't do that. Kenneth Walker has his best runs when the passing game is going. And the ways you get the passing game going is by running play action, getting short passes, work the middle of the field, and then you mess around, open it up for DK to get deep. That's what you need to be doing. And you also need to be finding ways to get DK to football other than just deep. He's your best playmaker on your offense. By far your best playmaker on your offense. And I like Kenneth Walker, but this is your best playmaker. This is your most explosive option on your offense. He's big, he's fast, he's strong. He could do a lot of things once the ball's in his hand, a lot like A.J. Brown can. You got to get him the football. I don't care if it's a slant route. I don't care if it's a dig. I don't care if it's a crossing. Shoot, you can even give the boy. No, I won't go that far. I'm about to say give him a reverse. He's not shifty enough to do that. That's Tyler Lockett. But there are ways that you could get him the football to get him involved to where now the defense has to be concerned about him. It's going to open up the field. You got to get him the football. And then for the Bengals, man, your defense is playing fantastic, actually. They are now finding their stride. Most importantly, your defense is being led by your defensive line, who has been playing dominant the last 2-3 weeks. So, man, that's a great sign, because what that is allowing is guys like Taylor Britt, Hilton, and your rookie safeties, that gives them less pressure. There's less pressure on them to hold up, and now they could grow and get better back there. So, man, Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson, keep doing your thing. You guys are balling up front. Keep rushing the passer and keep stopping the run the way you're stopping the run, and y'all will be in games regardless. Y'all got a tough game after the bye, but y'all should be in games regardless if y'all go that route. I am still concerned about Joe Burrow in that offense, though. Yes, they had that explosion against the Arizona Cardinals, but that's the Arizona Cardinals. They're going to get blown out. They're going to have they'll be in some games, but they're going, it's Cardinals, whatever. But this week, when you played against a defense that had talent, and Devon Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen, Jamal Adams, Bobby Wagner, so on and so forth, y'all struggled again. You struggled again. First of all, you got to find a way to get T. Higgins more involved. He has to get more involved in the offense. Jamar Chase cannot be the only option. Tyler Boyd, you got also really try to get him involved. I know he had a touchdown in this game, but you got to do more for him than just give him just little crossing routes here and there. No, he has to be involved. But the most important thing, y'all got to get the running game going. You got to get the run game going. This is not a great run stopping defense. Y'all could not run the ball against them. Joe Burrow is not healthy right now. You cannot depend on that. And that's why I also have an issue with their offense. Because Joe Burrow is not healthy right now, this is becoming a very quick attacking offense. That is not how this offense functions. That's not when it's at its best. And because of that, that tells me Joe Burrow is not healthy. That's what that tells me. When you're asking Joe Burrow just to boom, boom, do one read, throw the ball there, that's not Joe Burrow. That's not how he plays. Now, what that does, which is good, it works on your team's timing. The timing of the routes is way better. The offensive timing is way better. But the issue is that now you have no explosive plays. No explosive plays. Your most explosive play right now is throwing Ja'Marr Chase a screen pass, hoping he goes the distance. That cannot be your only explosive play. And that's all that they got. And it's because Joe Burrow is still not healthy. He still is afraid to push off of that leg. There's a difference between running around and having to push off to make that bomb throw. He has to push off of that leg. When you're running, you're alternating legs. There's not a whole lot of strain. And also in this game, he wasn't really challenged once again in the pocket. When he did get sacked, it came from in front of him where he could probably prepare his body to get sacked. I'm worried when he's trying to take off like Aaron Rodgers did week 1. Take off, you got that foot planted, and then you get sacked. Joe is not healthy still. Now with the bye, he'll be even healthier in 2 weeks. But man, when you talk about calf strains, things like hamstrings, stuff like that, it could look like 100% and then it could be gone the next second. So the Bengals still got some work to do. Utilize this bye week to really go over your offense and figure out the best way to move forward. The next important game that we're going to go over is the 49ers at the Cleveland Browns. Unfortunately, guys, I did not get to get the podcast up last week. But like I said, I did record, but the camera and the quality wasn't what I wanted it to be. And man, I wish I would have, because now it will sound like one of those guys that's looking at it after the game. I said this was a game the 49ers could lose. Now, I did pick the 49ers to win once I saw Deshaun Watson wasn't playing. I was saying the 49ers could lose this game if Deshaun played. I was not talking about if PJ Walker played. But, man, the reason why I thought so was because the Browns' defensive front seven is elite. And, see, the 49ers have the best front seven offensively in the league. Talking about Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Trent Williams, that offensive line, Kyle Juszczyk, they can match up with that. But this was a team that can match up just as well. They're just as physical and just as fast. Look at Myles Garrett, man. This is a big man. And he's just as much of an athlete as anyone on the field. This man literally pushed over Trent Williams. That's not an easy feat. And when you got Jadarius Smith on the other side, once again, bro, that's an elite athlete on the edge. That can make things rough. That's why this was a bad matchup for them. Then when you couple that, now like the 49ers can be like, oh, well, we got Brandon Ayuk on the outside. Well, we got Denzel Ward. What's up? Oh, we got Deebo on the outside. Well, we got Ray Newsome. What's up? So, like, with that being the case, I thought this would be a bad matchup for the 49ers. And it was a trap game for the 49ers. When you just played a highly emotional game against the Dallas Cowboys, bro, it's hard to get that back next week. It's hard to get that heart back next week because you let so much out that game. So this was a trap game for them. They'll get back on track after this week. But great game by the Cleveland Browns, man. The defensive line played great. Linebackers played great. The defensive backs played excellent in this game. And the offense was shaky, but the defense got the job done. But last thing I want to say about this game is Brock Purdy. Hey, respect. He played a tough game. This was a tough game for Brock. But you know what he did do? He led his team down on a game-winning drive, and they should have won the game. The kicker missed 2 field goals in this game. But when the game was on the line, Brock Purdy did his job. And that's something that we needed to see from him because we haven't had to see it. And it's nice to see that he could do that. I don't really have too many questions about Brock Purdy. All I know is he's not the greatest talent in the league. He's far from the worst, but he could be my quarterback if I got Kyle Shanahan as my head coach. He could be my quarterback. I like this team. Moving on now to the next important game, the Philadelphia Eagles at the New York Jets. Man, I know a lot of you guys are wondering why. How did the Eagles lose this football game? Well, let me tell you how they lost this game, man. First of all, the Eagles' offensive line is not the same. It's not what it was last year. And then when Lane Johnson went out, it made it a whole lot worse. And it allowed the defensive line of the New York Jets to really impose their will on the offense. So, see, this is what happens. When your defensive line continues beating the offensive line is losing confidence every single rep. Every single rep. Well, you could be like, well, the Eagles scored 2 touchdowns. Blase, blase. Yeah, they did. But notice in the second half, they didn't score anything because they was losing that confidence as the game waned. But the person that loses the most confidence is Jalen Hurts. He's the one that's losing the most confidence. And the reason why he's losing the most confidence is that he's not trusting his offensive line to hold up. So now he's scrambling. But watch how he's scrambling. There's two different types of scrambling. One is needed, and another one is I'm nervous. And the one that I'm nervous is when you're just going out, when you're just running out. This Jalen Hurts kept doing this and go out here and kept doing this and going out there when just one guy's coming. You're supposed to slide, step up in the pocket, look downfield, blase, blase, because now you still got all your options open to you. You can still see your 1, 2, 3, or 4 options out there. When you roll to one side, now it's only this guy because these 3 guys don't even know that you're rolling yet. So they can't work their way over. So you just got this one guy. And if he's not open, if he can do something to get open, now you're running. That's not good. That's not good quarterback play. That's not good quarterback play. And it's all stemming from him not trusting the offensive line to hold up. He's not trusting the offensive line to hold up. And then what happens next is that you make bad decisions. The game, when he threw the interception at the end of the game, that cost him the game, where the game was over. He tried rolling, got cut off. He stepped back and threw a fadeaway pass, pick. If he was able to plant his feet and maybe get some muscle into that, maybe it gets completed. But the fact that he had a fadeaway, he didn't get much arm strength on that, it got picked off. And that's where Jalen Hurts is really struggling at this year with things like that. A lot of the playmaking is falling on him, and it's not structured. See, last year that was structured playmaking, RPO. He is the playmaker, but it's a play. It's a real play taking place. And he's making the decision whether to hand it off or throw this ball. And then the next thing, read options, so on and so forth. Like he is the decision maker. He is the playmaker within the structure of the offense. This year, they're doing more like Josh Allen, like playmaking. And that's not good. That's sloppy. And that's how they're playing on offense. They're playing very sloppy. Very sloppy. Jalen Hurts has showcased the talent. That's not a question. I'm not questioning what he could do. I'm questioning the structured offense, the coordinator not knowing how to properly use Jalen Hurts, and also Jalen Hurts doing more than what he's supposed to be doing. He's making things more complicated instead of making things simplistic. And that's what's causing issues for them. But for the New York Jets, man, they also won this game because they stay consistent. They stay consistent. They never change. They never waver. When the score was 7-0, they just did their offense. Got down there, kick a field goal. 14-3, run your offense. Get down here, kick the field goal. Now it's 6-14. Run your offense. Get down there, kick the field goal. 9-14. And that's all they kept doing. And next thing you know, if the defense made that final play, the Philadelphia Eagles let him score the touchdown. Which, real quick, for those of you that don't know, they let Breece Hall score the touchdown, so then they get the ball back one more time. Because the score was 14-12, no matter what, unless Breece Hall fumbled or something, the Jets are getting a field goal, and they could have kicked the field goal with 0 seconds left and won this game 14-15. So that's why they let them score, just so then they get an opportunity to score as well, because the Jets were scoring no matter what. At least now we get an opportunity to try to win this game. Now, moving on to the next game, the game of the week, which was the Dallas Cowboys at the Los Angeles Chargers. Terrible coaching, man. As always with Brandon Staley. So, the 4th and 1, I believe when they scored a touchdown, I wasn't mad at that with Brandon Staley. That made sense. That made plenty of sense. Your offense had momentum, blase, blase. But the one where it was 10-7, third quarter, Cowboys were winning, and the Chargers was down by 3, and it's like 4th and 5. Why would you go for that? That makes no sense to me. because your offense, obviously, from the first quarter, because they scored on the first drive, from the first quarter to the third quarter, this is your first time in scoring range. Scoring range. I'm saying like field goal range. Like this is your first time. You have no momentum in this game. The score is 10-7. It's the third quarter. Just tie the game up. Just tie the game up. I'm not one of the people that says, "Oh, well, you kick the field goal, they'll give you 3 points, and then you win the game." No, that's not football. Because now the game plan changed. The flow of the game changes. Because now what happens is that you kick that field goal, you get the score tied 10-10. Your offense feels good. Your offense like, okay, we got 3 points on the board. Next time we come out here, let's get this touchdown. Like it changes. That's how they walk off the field and come back on. This time when they walked off the field and came back on, dang, bro, we blew that. We got no points on that drive. We had a good drive and got nothing out of it. Bro, how are we going to do this, bro? We got to get points. See how the conversation changes? The conversation is completely different. But, man, Dak Prescott played a heck of a game. He played a heck of a game. That's one of the best games I've ever seen him play, to be honest. But the thing is, they did go against a bad defense. But it was nice to see him scrambling, getting back to making plays with his legs, getting back to looking down the field as he's scrambling, getting the ball in CeeDee Lamb's hands. That was a big deal for me going into this game. And Mike McCarthy did a great job of getting in the ball, whether it was off of deep digs or deep crossing routes or close crossing routes, allowing CD to make a play for you. Man, that was a good call for CeeDee Lamb. The offensive line has to get better. Y'all got to be able to run the football a little bit, and this is why y'all miss Zeke Elliott. Like I said you guys would. Tony Pollard cannot do that bang, 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 bang every game. Every game. He is a zone. He's an off tackle runner. That's what Tony Pollard is. That's what allowed him to be efficient. But the thing is, you have to go between the tackles at some point, and that's something that he cannot do. He cannot do that. So the offense played well. Dak played a great game, but there's something to still be desired out of that running game. The Cowboys defense, though, shut down the Los Angeles Chargers offense. And the reason why they did was because, honestly, it was just a good matchup. Good matchup. I know some of you guys are wondering, like, hey, B, how did they stop the Chargers offense from running the football, but couldn't stop the 49ers or the Arizona Cardinals? Two different types of running. That's what it is. Man, the Chargers trying to beat you with scheme and athletic ability. But the thing is, Dallas is just as athletic. Just as athletic. You're not beating them with power. That's where their defense is weak. So when a little guy like Austin Eckler is trying to come through, yeah, my little linebacker can handle him. Javon Curse can handle him. Javon Curse cannot handle Derrick Henry. He cannot handle James Conner. He cannot handle Christian McCaffrey. He can't handle those guys. Well, I can handle Austin Eckler. And also in that kind of offense, when you're trying to do a lot of zone off tackle runs and things like that, your linemen are skinnier. You have smaller offensive linemen than other teams because you're focusing on agility and speed. So now when all that matches up, now Michael Parsons can bull rush a guard. That's why he could bull rush those guards, because they are small enough for him to control. And he cannot bull rush the 49ers guards because they run a lot of between the tackle stuff. So with that being the case, those guys are just, they're mass. They're just bigger. And now he can't push those guys around. That's why the Dallas Cowboys did a great job. But, man, kudos to Dallas Cowboys defense. They played great. They played within their structure. And, man, they handled their business and had a great game. Great game. Now, real quick, though, you guys, before we get into the Week 7 preview games, man, I want to go over something. We're going to call this segment Save That Man. Save That Man. These are trades these are realistic trades that I think should take place that could benefit the team that they're currently on and the team that they're going to in a great way. And like I said, these are realistic ones. This ain't them Bleacher Report ones where people be saying some nonsense like, oh, trade Lamar Jackson. Nah, nothing like that. These are realistic trades where it really makes sense. And the first one I'm going to start off with is a quarterback. We're going to start off with Kirk Cousins. I think the Minnesota Vikings should trade Kirk Cousins. And I think that they should trade him to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Steelers should be highly interested in Kirk Cousins. Kenny Pickett has shown so far that he's not ready. He's not ready. But the timeline of your team is time. It's time. You're primed. You're ready to rock and roll. Your defense is solid. And you got playmakers on the defense. You got playmakers on your offense. You just need the quarterback to get the ball to where it needs to be on time. And I think Kirk Cousins will be a great fit there. Another place I think will be a good fit for Kirk Cousins is Tennessee Titans because of the timing. And the last place is also the Washington Commanders. I actually think that's the best spot, but that's weird. Those of you that know this, you know, he used to be there. He left. It's weird to like kind of trade for him back. But in terms of timing, the compensation, what the team has to give, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers make the most sense. You put Kirk Cousins there, he could get the ball to George Pickens. He could get the ball to Deontay Johnson. He could get the ball to Pat Fryermuth. He could do all those things. And when you could get the ball to those guys, now the defense has to back up. And that's when a guy like Najee Harris comes into play. That's when a guy like him, he could get to run in the football because now there's more space because now there's only 6 in the box instead of 8 in the box. So I think that'll be a good fit. Probably have to give up maybe like a third round draft pick, get Kirk Cousins there on your team. And of course, you have to pay him a little bit, but he cannot demand $55 million. He's going to probably demand about 40 because that's what Daniel Jones got. He's going to make sure he at least gets that. But I think that'd be a good fit for Kirk Cousins. I do not think it will happen, but I think it would be a good fit. A trade that I would not be shocked if it happened. I doubt it. I doubt it. It's the NFL. And the NFL, it's not the NBA. Trades don't really take place like that because, like I talked about, you really need the offseason and training camp to get acclimated to offenses and defensive schemes. But a trade that I really think should happen is Derrick Henry getting traded to the Baltimore Ravens. I think that would be a perfect fit. Perfect fit. You have your elusive guy, Lamar Jackson. You have Derrick Henry to run downhill. You have a solid offensive line, run blocking offensive line. You got solid receivers where you can't necessarily put 8 in the box. I think that's something that could be a big deal for them. The way the money will work is that you'll make the money work with whatever you're trading. So, like if you trade a second round pick for Derrick Henry, Tennessee would probably eat like half of the salary. So then you can now have Derrick Henry. That's why I think should take place. And I think that will really help out Lamar Jackson's growth within this offense because now there's a strong running game there, a strong running game presence, and now Lamar can really function. And that's when the Moncton offense could take the next step. And I think that would be a great trade for both parties because now Tennessee, you could officially commit to a rebuild like you guys should have probably done last year. You could really commit to that, get the money off your books, draft, build your team again with Mike Vrabel, and y'all could go off into the future, probably in the next 2 years, being a contender again in that division. Moving on now to the next guy. I think Mike Evans should get traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think the Chiefs need him. I think Mike Evans needs to leave. Now, it'll be a 1 year rental. It'll be a complete 1 year rental, but anywhere he gets traded to, that probably will be the case. Nobody's going to have the money to pay him, and you're going to want to see how he functions within your offense. But the Chiefs need a big receiver that can run slant routes and things of that nature while also being a force down the field. And I think that could be Mike Evans. I think that'd be a great fit. Once again, I'm thinking probably like a third round pick will get that deal done. Maybe even a fourth round pick could get that deal done. Get him there. And now the Chiefs are ready to take a big step on that offense because the wide receivers that the Chiefs have not proven anything so far. And now you get a future possible Hall of Famer in Mike Evans, pair him with Travis Kelce, with Isaiah Pacheco in the backfield. That could be a great fit. The last guy I want to go over is Chase Young. He's one of the trickiest guys to me, and because he's so tricky, if I were the Washington Commanders, I would have to trade him. I would have to trade him, man. It's simply because of health. He's been so up and down with his health, so it makes him up and down on the field. I'm not comfortable paying him money. And a team I think will be great for him is the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are known in the league for being great with injuries, great with getting guys back healthy, so that could be a great spot for Chase Young. Also, the Rams now will have a little bit of money in the upcoming years to pay Chase Young, and you get to learn and play next to Aaron Donald. I think it all fits. I think it all fits. You could probably trade a second round pick and get Chase Young there, but I don't know if the Rams want to go that route just because they did that kind of before. Yes, they won a Super Bowl, but it made it hard for them to build off of. But Chase Young is still young enough. You can still sign him long term. You're not going to sign him to like a super fat contract because of his health. You get him kind of cheaper, and he can mess around and outperform that contract down in 5 years. So, man, I think that would be a great trade option. Those are the four guys that I really think need to be traded. I doubt that any of them happen, but I would love to see those trades take place because I think they could be great benefits to the teams that they are going to and make those teams true contenders. And now, bro, we're gonna get into our week 7 preview, man. Our final segment of this episode. And man, first of all, we're gonna go over the important games of this week. Man, the important games this week, I got a few of them. One of them is the Detroit Lions at the Baltimore Ravens. Man, this is gonna be a big game. Detroit is proving what they are, but they are in NFC. They have played against a few teams that have not been as tough, and now this is a tough game. And Lamar Jackson is a guy that I'm very interested in watching to go against Aaron Glenn and his defense because man, the Detroit Lions defense is what making this team really good. They have stepped up and played way better than what I anticipated them playing. So now, how do you rush Lamar? How do you rush him? Do you get to him? Do you get him to turn the ball over some more? Because he's having a really bad fumbling issue right now. Lamar Jackson is. So can you get to him? But on the flip side, can the Detroit Lions offensive line control the defensive line and linebackers of the Baltimore Ravens? And the reason why this is a question is because David Montgomery's not playing. And when you got Roquan Smith out there along with Patrick Queen, that's going to be a big deal. So I think this game is going to come down to, it's going to sound very generic, but it's going to come down to Jared Goff against Lamar Jackson. That's what this game will come down to. Whichever quarterback performs better, and when I say better, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have more yards, more stats, more whatever. I'm talking about just controlling the game, not turning the ball over, controlling the game, and putting their team in winning situations. That's going to be the team that wins this game. The next important game to me is the Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And actually, real quick, I'm sorry, I forgot. I did not talk about this, so I'm about to revert back a little bit. Did not talk about the Atlanta Falcons in the play clock or the commander segment. So real quick, Atlanta Falcons, I watched that game. I got issues with Desmond Ridder. I do got issues with Desmond Ridder. Like I said before, I think he'll be a great backup. As a starter, I do not think he's that guy. I do not think he's that guy. There's a lot of balls he missed. I counted in that game 7 passes that he missed. Those, I'm not talking about just incompletions. You got rushed, you threw an incomplete pass. I'm talking about passes that should have been caught, and 3 of them should have been touchdowns. 3 should have been touchdowns, but you missed like 6 or 7 of them. Those are first downs or touchdowns. You completely missed those balls. You gotta have those. Now, I've seen too many of those this year to continue having faith in you. But back to this game, the Falcons at Bucks. Both teams are 3-3. They're trying to. I believe both teams are 3-3. They're trying to take control of the NFC South. So, man, this is going to be a big game. And honestly, this game is very simplistic. It's going to come down to the Buccaneers defense against Desmond Ridder. If Desmond Ridder turns the ball over, the Atlanta Falcons lose. If he doesn't, honestly, I think the Falcons win this football game because the Falcons defense is solid. But you cannot continue putting them in bad spots, which Desmond Ridder did last week, and he has done in the past as well. You cannot continue doing that. So that's what this game will come down to. But it's a big game because this is going to say who takes control of the NFC South. Moving on to the next game, man, we're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Los Angeles Rams. This is the big game because the Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to stay in that fight with the AFC North. They're trying to stay in that fight. But this is a spot where the Rams could take this dub and now get it across to the winning record side and continue building on their progress so far this season. And what we're seeing from Cooper Kupp, Matt Stafford, along with Puka Nacua, continue building that offense. This is a strong defensive line you're playing against. If you can handle this defensive line, that'll boost your confidence going to the future games. And that's what this game's simply going to come down to. The Steelers defense, actually, period. It's coming down to the trenches, period. Whoever wins the trenches on both sides of the ball is going to win this game. The Steelers' weakness on offense is their offensive line. The Rams' strength on defense is their defensive line with Aaron Donald. If they could get the Kenny Pickett, he's throwing interceptions. He's going to mess it up. And vice versa. If the Steelers' defensive line could get to Matt Stafford, you will neutralize that offense. But you have to get to Matt Stafford. And the offensive line for the Rams, it's probably about average right now. I'm not going to say they're terrible, but they're not great. But TJ Watt, he can wreck this game. So this game is going to be an old school game that comes down to the trenches. But I think the Rams are going to pull this game out. And then my final important game is going to be the Los Angeles Chargers at the Kansas City Chiefs. This is usually a good game every year. And I think the big thing for this game is going to come down to Justin Herbert against the Chiefs defense. The Chiefs defense has been elite this year. And it's going to come down to Justin Herbert not making mistakes. It's also going to come down to Brandon Staley, of course. What does he do in this game to blow this game? Mike McCarthy literally went to that game last week saying, I'm just not going to mess it up because that dude, he'll mess it up eventually. So we'll see what Brandon Staley ends up doing, see what crazy fourth down he goes for, or so on and so forth. But this game is going to come down to Justin Herbert against the Chiefs defense. On the Chiefs side, it's going to come down to Jawan Taylor and Donovan Mitchell, the left tackle, and the right tackle, going against Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. If the Chiefs can maintain those guys, they will completely neutralize the Los Angeles Chargers defense, and they will handle their business on that defense. But if they don't, that's when this becomes a game. Now, the game of the week is the Miami Dolphins at the Philadelphia Eagles. Bro, you talk about a game I can't wait for. I'm excited for this game because, bro, this game has a lot of intel in it. Because the questions I have for Tua, this game right here will answer those questions. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Fletcher Cox and Hassan Reddick and Brandon Graham coming at you, bro, you're going to have to make plays. That high school stuff that you do here and there, just staring down Tyreek Hill, just like, oh, I'm just going to wait for him to get open and get it there, and he can just run around there and make plays. That ain't happening, bro. This is going to be a real scheme, and this is where I think Tua gets to prove how good he is, because now it's time for you to be a playmaker. You got to be a playmaker in this game. Just like against the Bills, you got to be a playmaker in that game. You got to be a playmaker in this game. And they have to get Jalen Waddle involved. You have to get him involved. Because Raheem Mostert, he's not doing that this week. I'm telling you guys now that it's not happening this week. This is one of the best run defenses in the NFL. That is not happening this week. You are not getting a $130 out of Raheem Mostert and 3 touchdowns this week. If that happens, I will be sincerely shocked. Sincerely shocked. Now, of course, if Jalen Carter don't play or Fletcher Cox don't play, that's different. But I'm saying if all these boys play, that's good. I'll be shocked if that happens. So it's going to come down to Tua making plays. On the flip side, Jalen Hurts, you better not mess up. You better not mess up because that's an offense that can score them points. If you messing up, you're giving them more opportunities to run that score up on you. So, and you're putting your defense in bad situations. This is a game I cannot wait for. The teams I got winning all these important games, bro, I got the Ravens beating the Lions, mainly because it's in Baltimore, and I think the Lions are about due for a loss. They're just due. I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Atlanta Falcons, taking control of the NFC South. I got the Rams beating the Steelers. I just do not think the Steelers are talented enough. I got the Chiefs beating the Chargers just because we beat them every year, and the Chargers will always charger. Somehow they always charge. You can make cases do shouldn't have won a game so far this year because of how their coaching has been handled. And then, but the game of the week, bro, the Dolphins at the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles because the Dolphins are on the road, and I am sincerely concerned with Tua getting the ball out of his hands to those playmakers. That is the end of episode 7 of the Knowing True Ball podcast. Man, I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm very excited to get back to doing this once a week. Thank you for being patient with me. I know I missed last week, but like I said, the boy was on vacation last week. But man, I'm very happy to be back. Hey, please like and subscribe. Please hit me up in the comment box so we can have some great conversations about everything that we're talking about right now. Let's continue building our community. You feel blessed enough, if you feel the need to bless me by sharing, I also greatly appreciate that. Hey, you guys meant to continue taking care of yourselves, and let's continue enjoying this NFL season. And the NBA season's coming up, so keep an eye out for my NBA preview episodes coming up here shortly. Hey, Knowing True Ball with your host, Brian Payne. Peace.